Go ahead, yeah, yeah. Oh, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You lead beside still waters, calm in my heart. You restore my soul, you make me whole. And in your hands I'll never fall apart. You make me lie down in green pastures, yeah. Peace surrounds me even in disaster. You walk with me through every shadow. No fear, you're here, I know. Psalm 23, you're my melody. Your love is chasing after me. Goodness and mercy follow me. All my days you'll never leave. Psalm 23, you comfort me, prepare a place, you set me free. My cup overflows eternally. I dwell with you in perfect peace. Though I walk through the valley of death's dark shade, I won't be afraid, 'cause you light my way. Your rod and staff, they comfort me. You fight for me, you set me free. You anoint my head with oil so sweet. Your presence brings me to my knees. You lead me in paths of righteousness. Your name is holy, I am blessed. Psalm 23, you're my melody. Your love is chasing after me. Goodness and mercy follow me. All my days you'll never leave. Psalm 23, you comfort me, prepare a place, you set me free. My cup overflows eternally. I dwell with you in perfect peace. Forever I'm yours and you are mine. No greater love, no higher light. From this day to eternity, I'll trust in you completely. Psalm 23, you're my melody. Your love is chasing after me. Goodness and mercy follow me. All my days you'll never shepherd, you'll never. Psalm 23, you comfort me, prepare a place, you set me free. My cup overflows eternally. I dwell with you in perfect peace.
Shalom, family. It's good to see you all here. I hope you're doing well. Well, the EU is pushing back up against Donald Trump. You know, they were upset over all those tariffs that he slapped on them, and then they were upset at how Donald Trump was pretty much siding with Putin whenever he called himself negotiating and ending the Ukraine-Russia war. You know, he expected Zelensky to do all the sacrificing while Russia take up all the land. And he did it again about a week ago. He felt that Zelensky should put down the arms and let Russia just take up whatever lands they wanted to take up in Ukraine. Well, the EU has now stepped up and said, you know what, Donald Trump, if you continue to take the side of Putin, we're going to pull the plug on all of the bonds that we got in the US and take out your economy. And yes, they can do it because they got trillions in US bonds and they're threatening to pull the plug and destroy the US economy. So, this is where it stands. So, Donald Trump has not responded at all to the demands of the EU right now. So, y'all, I'm going to let you listen to some of the videos so you can get a clearer understanding of what the EU is saying to Donald Trump. So, they pretty much want Donald Trump to back off. Donald Trump is not a negotiator. I know he sits around talking about he's such a great negotiator. He really isn't a great one at all. And all of the promises that he made would happen on day one of his presidency, we have not seen it come to pass as of yet. And we're entering year one of his presidency, and the Russia-Ukraine war is still going strong over there. And he has not been able to negotiate anything as far as ending the war. So the EU is pretty much serious about this. They don't like the way Donald Trump has been lapping up on Putin's behind. And they're sick of it and they're ready to make a move to crash out the US economy. And yes, I think they're serious. I don't think they're joking around with Donald Trump. They don't even like Donald Trump. And, these are countries that used to be allies. But Donald Trump, the only thing he knows how to do is make enemies out of everybody. So now it looked like he has bitten off more than he can chew. And let's see how he handles this one. So let me share my screen, y'all, so that we can get started. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Thank you, everybody.
On this episode of FAFO, the EU has informed President Trump that if he continues to support Putin in this war in Ukraine, they are going to liquidate their U.S. Treasury bonds, which would, in effect, be the end of the U.S. economy. If you don't understand what a Treasury bond is, I'll explain it to you. The U.S. spends so much money on military activity, especially out of country military activity, and has given so many tax cuts to billionaires that we don't bring in enough tax money to pay for any of it. So what we have to do is sell treasury bonds to other countries, which is pretty much a loan. Give us your money and you'll give us the cash. We'll use that cash to pay for everything we need to pay for, and we'll give you interest on this bond that we gave you, right? So it's like they're investing in the United States. So if we don't get those bond investments from other countries, we literally don't have cash to spend on the things we need to make the country function. Not just military, also domestic programming. So if the EU is actually about that life and they're going to walk that walk, this would literally be the demise of the United States as a world power. But we'll see. Have a good day.
If the EU does what they say they're going to do, we are fucked. We're fucked. Our economy is fucked. And I think we kind of deserve it. So let's go. Like, it's going to be rough, but like, we deserve it. Historically, we deserve it.
So there are two very interesting things happening today. It's being reported that countries in the European Union are threatening to liquidate their U.S. bonds if Trump continues to support Russia against Ukraine. To the cost of trillions of dollars, that would effectively bankrupt the United States. And the European Union are reportedly threatening to do this if Trump continues to support fascist regimes. The second interesting thing is that you know how Donald Trump was given that shitty little participation peace award by FIFA, mostly because he was threatening to pull the World Cup from blue cities in the United States? So FIFA had to find a way to kiss his ass and find a way to stroke his ego by giving him a fake peace prize. Well, ironically, that turned out to be a bribe from the FIFA corporation that was being investigated for bribes. And today, Trump's DOJ dropped the FIFA bribery charges after he was given that shitty peace prize. Once again, the easiest way to smell an authoritarian regime a mile away is blatant, transparent bribery. You give me a shitty peace prize that I can parade around and pretend I'm as cool as Obama, and I'll drop all of the bribery charges against you. This is the way Trump has always operated. He never does anything nice for anyone unless they slip him a wad of cash under the table. But I guess while he continues to commit rampant cronyism, corruption, bribery, war crimes, and somehow claiming he's going after drug dealers while pardoning drug lords, his sycophantic cultists will just continue to stick their head right up their ass and pretend this is America first somehow.
America and Europe are fighting right now, and Europe just threatened to pull the trigger on a secret nuclear weapon nobody was supposed to know about. Here's the kicker. Europe holds $2 trillion of American debt. $2 trillion. If they decide to dump that debt into the market, the American economy doesn't stagger.
A standing ovation for Ukraine President Zelensky yesterday. That was inside Ireland's parliament. And before Zelensky arrived there, we had learned that there was an assassination attempt made on Zelensky's life, almost certainly by the Russians, as various drones were swarming above Ireland's airspace. And but for Zelensky's planes arriving ahead of schedule, there could have been an actual assassination on Zelensky. I know this really isn't getting attention anywhere in the American press or in lots of other press. We need to cover that here. By the way, please subscribe to the Midas Touch YouTube channel. We bring the receipts, we bring the facts, we cover things that other people are not focused on. And you know we're under attack from the Trump regime and state regime media, which calls itself Fox. So please, if you can, hit subscribe right now. You may think you're subscribed to this YouTube channel, but double check because you might not actually be subscribed. So here's what happened yesterday. Shortly after a plane carrying Ukrainian President Zelensky landed in Dublin, Ireland on Monday, a group of 4 large unidentified military-style drones entered the no-fly zone and began circling over Dublin International Airport, according to the reporting by The Telegraph. Sources are reporting that the drones would have been directly in the flight path of the plane carrying Zelensky if it had not taken off and landed in Dublin ahead of schedule, with officials in Ireland and Europe calling it an act of hybrid warfare and a possible assassination attempt against the president of Ukraine, almost certainly from Russia. After circling over the airport for a short time, the drones flew east, orbiting over a warship with the Irish Navy that had been secretly deployed to the Irish Sea ahead of the visit by Zelensky. So with that potential assassination attempt on Zelensky, what is the United States doing? What is the Trump regime doing? Well, they're lifting sanctions from Russia, and they're encouraging Russian oil companies like Luke Oil to make more money. So not only is the Trump regime not imposing sanctions or secondary sanctions against Russia, they're rewarding Russia as Russia threatens a full-fledged war against Europe, and as Russia has engaged in this likely assassination attempt against Zelensky. So yesterday, the U.S. Treasury Department suspended some of the sanctions imposed in October by the Trump administration on the Russian multinational energy corporation Lukoil, extending a waiver authorizing Lukoil branded gas stations throughout Europe, Central Asia, the Middle East, and the Americas to continue operating outside of Russia until at least April 29th, 2026. So as the Trump regime tries to attack Europe, oh, you're buying gas and oil from Russia. Really, the main countries in Europe that are buying oil from Russia at this point are Hungary, which is Orban, and Slovakia. Putin allies who Donald Trump supports. And so this is all just BS pretext for Donald Trump to try to attack Ukraine and to try to attack and undermine NATO and undermine Europe. I'm going to show you that speech that Zelensky gave in a moment in Ireland. Wow, was it powerful. But before that speech, you had Putin warning Europe that Russia is ready for a full-fledged war against all of Europe. And this is as Zelensky saying that Russia plan with the United States is a plan for surrender and that Ukraine is not going to agree to it at all. So Zelensky put out a very powerful statement yesterday, and here's what he said. He said, Ukrainian representatives will continue their discussions in the United States with President Trump's team. Our task now is to obtain full information about what was said in Moscow between Witkoff, Kushner, and the Russian representatives, and what other pretexts Putin has come up with to drag out the war and to pressure Ukraine. Ukraine is prepared for any possible developments, and of course, we will work as constructively as possible with all partners to ensure that peace is achieved and that it is, after all, a dignified peace. Only a dignified peace provides real security, and we fully understand that this requires and will continue to require the support of our partners. And you see there Zelensky's tone really changing on the United States. And lots of Zelensky's allies in Europe, Friedrich Merz in Germany, others throughout Europe, are basically saying, be very, very careful. The European intelligence is likely who leaked those conversations between Witkoff and Kushner and Kirill Dmitriev and Yuri Yushkov, where they came up with the surrender plan and they were mocking Zelensky. And so I think European intelligence services have really been monitoring the behavior of Trump and Witkoff and Kushner, and they see that the United States wants to sell out NATO, Europe, and Zelensky, which we always knew, but it's taking on a very kind of concrete terms as Putin threatens all-out war against Europe. I'll show you what Putin said, but first let me bring you to the speech that Zelensky gave on the floor of Parliament in Ireland, where he got that standing ovation that I shared with you at the outset. Here's what he said, a real powerful speech. Play this clip.
Ukraine wants peace. Ladies and gentlemen, one strong country can start a war. Another strong country can help to stop the war. But to restore justice and defend what's right, we need a community, a world made up of many different nations. It is the community of nations that decides, united by shared sentiments, shared aspirations, a shared desire for justice. It is a community of nations that makes peace truly lasting. Geographically, large or small, politically influential or playing a different role, economically powerful or not, when these different voices stand together on the side of justice, on the side of free people, there is only one possible outcome: peace, and justice must prevail. When you have a true community of nations on your side, you cannot be crushed and your rights can be restored. No one can break the world alone. Not even Russia, not even with its few bodies. No one can lie to the entire world forever, not even Putin. No one can stand against everyone else. And that is the truth. but also true, one can inspire everyone else. And that is why Ukraine is fighting for every voice in the world, for every community in every region. We are trying to reach every heart, to answer every doubt, to counter every accusation with facts. And we are sourcing for and finding.
In contrast, here's what Putin said yesterday. Putin threatened to start a full-scale war with Europe, saying there would be nothing left of it if he did. He's now implying that his 11-year war against Ukraine isn't a failed attempt to conquer a sovereign neighboring country. It's only because they haven't even started the real war yet, which they want to take over Europe. And here's what Putin said. They're on the side of war, Europe. Even when they tried to make changes to Trump's proposal, we see clearly what's happening. All these changes aim to block the peace process by putting forward demands that are absolutely unacceptable for Russia. They understand this and want to blame Russia for derailing the peace process. That's their goal. We see this clearly. We don't intend to fight with Europe. I've said this 100 times, but if Europe certainly and suddenly wants to fight us, and starts, we're ready now. With Ukraine, we're acting surgically, carefully, so to speak. But it's clear, right? This isn't war in the direct modern sense of the word. If Europe suddenly wants to start a war with us, a situation could quickly arise where we have no one left to negotiate with. You see those threats right here? Let me show you now what Julianne Smith, former U.S. ambassador to NATO, told Christiane Amanpour. Here, play this clip.
So here's from the NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte. This is a quote from his press conference after the NATO meeting. He says, "We're ready and willing to do what it takes to protect our 1 billion people and secure our territory." This is after this from Russia, from Putin. Just take a listen to this.
We're not planning to go to war with Europe. I have already spoken about this 100 times. But if Europe suddenly wants to go to war with us and starts, we're ready right now.
So, there are two things going on here. There's Russia versus Ukraine, and then there's Russia versus Europe. Do you believe Putin when he says we never want to go to war with Europe, but if it happens, we'll be ready?
Well, I found that statement to be disturbing. It seemed to be a very thinly veiled threat that Russia is at the ready and possibly willing to try and touch NATO territory. What we do know is that Russia has spent years, decades, trying very hard to erode allies' commitment and faith in NATO's Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all. We've seen a number of sabotage events in recent years. We've seen incidents where drones have flown into Polish airspace. We had the incident with Russian jets flying over Estonia. These are classic plays on the part of the Russian playbook. They are designed to divide the alliance, to chip away at the unity that exists inside the NATO alliance, and to create uncertainty and insecurity across the entire European continent. And so when I hear the statement that Putin made yesterday, in some ways it's not altogether surprising, but it should worry Europe quite a bit in terms of how Russia is positioning itself to possibly touch or invade or intervene in NATO territory, which I hope never happens, but I don't like the sound of what we heard yesterday from Putin.
Now, as the Trump regime shows its cards clearly that it's a Putin bootlicking administration regime, European leaders are now considering dumping $2.43 trillion in U.S. debt if Trump abandons Ukraine, which would potentially trigger an economic crisis worse than 2008. So Europe is hanging that over Donald Trump. You abandon Ukraine, you side with Russia, we're going to dump the debt. And, good luck. There will be economic calamity, and that will be what the legacy of your regime. So Europe asserting itself, and Friedrich Merz is really behind that plan as well, Germany's chancellor, punching back. Here's what Donald Trump said in the Oval Office the other day, where he looked very sickly and he kept on falling asleep. But here's what he said when he was asked about Putin and Ukraine. Here, play this clip.
I don't know what the Kremlin's doing. I can tell you that they had a reasonably good meeting with President Putin. We're going to find out. You know, when I was in this office and I talked about no cards, I said, you have no cards. That was the time to settle. I thought that would have been a much better time to settle. But they, in their wisdom, decided not to do that. They have a lot of things against them right now. But you have President Putin had a very good meeting yesterday with Jared Kushner and with Steve Witkoff. What comes out of that meeting, I can't tell you, because it does take two to tango. You know, Ukraine, I think we have something pretty well worked out with them. They're very satisfied, considering.
And you spoke with Mr. Witkoff and with Mr. Kushner
last night.
Did they give you the sense that President Putin still wants to end the war, wants to make peace?
He would like to end the war. That's what that was their impression. Now, whether or not, that was their impression. You know, their impression was that he would like to see the war ended. I think he'd like to get back to dealing a more normal life. I think he'd like to be trading with the United States of America, frankly, instead of, you know, losing thousands of soldiers a week. But their impression was very strongly that he'd like to make a deal. We'll see what happens.
Now, I want to also mention as well, there were congressional hearings that took place, and there were hearings in the Senate on Russia's kidnapping of Ukrainians. Here's what Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal had to say. Play this clip.
It's more than a war crime. It is literally genocide. It is genocide because the ultimate goal of abducting these children is to erase the Ukrainian identity. It is part of a strategic effort to erase the nation of Ukraine from existence. And Putin tried it by conquering territory. He continues that effort. And the attempted negotiations now ongoing in Moscow, we wish them well, but there's no sign of clear progress, and therefore we need to move forward with our sanctions bill, with the designation of Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism, as well as an effort to use the seized assets.
Now, while he was doing that, you had Kirill Dmitriev, the Russian envoy to the United States, who's been working with Witkoff to try to force a surrender, sucking up to Trump and Melania. Russia expresses its gratitude to the U.S. First Lady Melania Trump for her humanitarian work and her efforts to help families and children affected by the conflict. Well, folks, you saw it right there. An assassination attempt was made on Zelensky, which is not getting really attention anywhere. And Trump's response is to lift the sanctions of Russian gas and oil companies. What a sicko. What a treasonous you know what. Let me know what you...
America and Europe are fighting, and Europe has threatened to release their secret nuclear weapon. Europe owns $2 trillion of America's debt. They can sell that debt and collapse the American economy overnight.
We're so distracted by Trump falling asleep during a live conference and then yammering on about the white powder that he loves in his nose that most of us probably didn't hear that this happened a couple of days ago. This is a really big deal, and it could crash the US economy. Europe is accusing Trump of collusion with Russia, and it's not really an accusation when it's blatant and obvious and it's happening. And they have warned Trump that if he abandons Ukraine and moves forward with the Russian propaganda peace deal that Putin, essentially the Kremlin, just handed to Trump and said, do all of this. If he moves forward with that, Europe is going to dump $2.34 trillion of US debt. That's right. They're going to dump us on our ass. That will be the nail in the coffin for the dollar and the US economy. Other countries have historically bought our debt. It used to be a good investment. It's really not right now. Honestly, they're doing us a favor holding on to this, holding on to $2.34 trillion of our debt. This would be them taking us out back and just, for real.
All right, y'all. I'll definitely keep up with this one to see what happens. because Donald Trump already presented that deal to Ukraine, and Zelensky said he would get back to Donald Trump. So we shall see. Donald Trump has always been on Putin's side when it comes down to ending the war. And that's why all the way up until now, he never really got a deal from Zelensky, because getting a deal means he's got to give up so much land of his country. And he's not willing to do that. Russia would practically own almost half of Ukraine, and he doesn't want to give up his country like that. And Donald Trump is like, well, you can't win. You're going to lose. You should just sign the deal. But the deal is all about Russia. And Donald Trump don't seem to care. And that's been the big problem the entire time. So that's why the EU is now stepping in, and they got Ukraine's back, because they see Donald Trump don't. They see he don't. He got the back of Putin. So we shall see. We shall see if they make good on what they're threatening to do. But they are right. This will definitely end the U.S. economy. It will end the dollar. It will end everything. If they pull the plug and make this threat, make good on this threat, they're making on the U.S. and making to Donald Trump. But like y'all said, this is the Most High behind this whole thing. But we shall see how it plays out. We shall see how Donald Trump responds, because he hasn't really responded yet to this threat. So y'all, I have my next live coming up. Donald Trump has presented a package to the farmers, and really the package is for the white farmers. And I mean, a much smaller portion could go to the black farmers, but the black farmers are rejecting it. They're opting out. And you'll understand why they are opting out, because it's really not a fair deal for them as usual. They get gypped in the entire thing, and the white farmers make out a lot better than they do. But you'll get a better understanding when we get to that at 3:45. So I will see you all then. I want to thank Dark Skin Brother for your super chat. Europe can't stand a pack of firecrackers going off, yet alone a war. Europe already looks and smells like trash. Yeah, Europe is not what they make it out to be. I used to live over there, Dark Skin Brother, for a little while. And when these white people say, oh, well, they keep running to European countries to live. And, that's because you decimated their countries. See, you're not telling the whole story. You're only telling part of the story. That's because you Europeans have gone to their countries and you decimated their countries and disrupted their lives. So really, they're just coming to your country in return. It's not because they love you. You need to tell the whole story and not just part of it. MC2, the X Project, thank you for the 22-month membership. Trump's response will be a tantrum and more BS, causing certain demise for the U.S., and then to tell everyone how great he is and what a great job he's done. Yeah, and he'll put the blame on Ukraine or someone else. It won't be his fault. If Europe pulled the plug and everything collapse over here, you can best believe Donald Trump will transfer the blame on everybody except for himself. We know how he rolls. But thank you for your support for my channel. I deeply appreciate it. And I will see you all at 3:45. Shalom, family.